Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lack of Interesting Conversation podcast here with your host, me, Trey Mendenhall. I just want to thank you for joining me again today here on episode number 10. Yes, 10. Can you believe it? 10. That's crazy. All right, we made it to 10 episodes. I just want to thank you so much for joining me again today. I think I put a little teaser out about what this episode is going to be about. I believe I'm going to continue to do that as I think it kind of builds hype, which is good. Get more people to listen, maybe. But anyway, if you're anybody here comes across this podcast, I know up in the Northeast, I know you guys got hit by the blizzard. Praying you guys are safe. And also, if you didn't know, I'm a big Tennessee Volunteer fan. I know this past weekend there was a reporter named Wes Rucker. I came across his tweets on X. They anytime the Tennessee Volunteers were playing in sports, especially football, come across his tweets. I know he and his family had been through a lot here recently, but unfortunately he was in a car accident this past week and unfortunately passed away. And I know um, people from Josh Heupel, the head coach of Tennessee football, and Rick Barnes, the head coach of Tennessee basketball, and all of Vol Nation came out just talking about how much they liked the guy, how good of a guy he was, and to keep him in your prayers. And I know I would appreciate, and most of probably all of All Nation would appreciate if you would pray for them and his family. I know someone set up a GoFundMe account to help support his wife and his children. Um, and I will link that in the description. I believe that's still open. That GoFundMe is, if God puts it on your heart to give something to this grieving family, I'm sure they would appreciate any kind of any amount you would donate. It's just to help support them and help them during this absolutely tough period in their life. Um, but as with just a reminder that we are on every podcasting platform that we can be on, and we are also going forward here um, due to the podcast platform I use to help get this podcast. There is not a way to upload video. So as of right now, as we did last week on YouTube, that will be the exclusive home of the video version of this podcast for now until I can figure out a way to upload that to like Spotify, because I know they also are now doing videos. I don't believe any other podcasting platform is doing it, but I may be wrong. But just for now, there will be both a video and an audio version of this. So the audio version will not ever go away. I don't ever foresee this podcast as being exclusively a video podcast. As I honestly would love to continue to reach as many people as I can. God, lead me where this podcast needs to go. Also, and especially not just here in the States, but also internationally, as I know there was another international listener that somehow, some way found this podcast this past week, which is pretty mind-blowing. Thank you for listening. If you listen this week, I really appreciate it. And also just follow us also on the Facebook. We are on the Facebook page as the Lack of Interesting Conversation. This podcast, just search us up there and on Facebook. And if you're on there, just go ahead and give us a like and follow us also on the podcasting platform that you're on. Just make sure you follow us on there, rate us if you can, share, comment. Also, if you're available, whether that be on the Facebook page, because I do upload on that Facebook page every Wednesday that we upload. I know on Spotify, obviously, there you can comment on there too, and on YouTube, that is also, you can comment on that as well. But as we as I shift here, I go to the topic of the day. As obviously you can see on the shirt here, on the video version of the podcast, as I teased in the little short I dropped on the YouTube page and the Facebook page. Also on the TikTok, you can just follow me at Trey Mendenhall on TikTok. I teased that we would be talking about Stryper. Yes, Stryper. Honestly, the pioneer of Christian hard rock, heavy metal. Although Christian rock had existed before Stryper, as obviously in the '80s, that was really the big thing at the time in the 1980s. A lot of mainstream was hard rock, heavy metal, hair metal, as it was called. And obviously, those guys would just sing about partying, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, to be completely honest. But then came along this band called Stryper, who flipped basically what they were singing about on their head and promoted the faith, the Christian faith, promoted Jesus, singing about that he is the rock that makes us roll, that you can freely surrender to him, open up into his majesty, that he is life-changing, and that also that he can set you free and make your life anew, and have that his work on the cross gives us the opportunity to be free and to have an eternal life with him for this life here on earth. That by his work on the cross, that we have eternal life if we believe in him and accept him as our Lord and Savior. This is a t-shirt from the Soldiers Under Command tour, and obviously a Stryper under Stryper, Isaiah 53:5. If you don't know that verse, I'll read it to you. I'm reading out of the King James Version of the Bible. Isaiah 53:5. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. Also, with this episode here today, it'll be starting a new series of top fives. Today I will talk about my top 5 Stryper albums, which is why I kind of teased that. I've seen Stryper now twice. I even caught a Stryper Bible my first time. I actually caught 2 that time, but I ended up giving one of them away as I felt led to do so. But here we go as we head into the top 5 Stryper albums. All right, number 5 here. This is the album that really introduced me to the band. An album that helped me become a fan. Really, after I guess what led me to it is Michael Sweet's appearances there on Chris Jericho's podcast, Talk is Jericho. Really led me to listen and pick up this album, as I really didn't know where to start here. And this is the only, I own this album digitally, but this is the only one I don't physically own. So I'm sorry, the rest of the albums I do own, I will show those off. But this number 5 is Second Coming. This album was a re-recording of the first 3 Stryper albums here. They went in and re-recorded maybe like 4 or 5 songs from the Yellow and Black Attack, Soldiers Under Command, Into Hell with the Devil. The tracking list here goes as track 1, Loud and Clear, Loving You, Soldiers Under Command, Makes Me Want to Sing, First Love, The Rock That Makes Me Roll, Reach Out, Surrender, To Hell with the Devil, Calling on You, which is, in my opinion, is a worship song. I love that song. That song's great. I feel you can just get lost in the Lord and in his presence and with that song. 11, First Love, The Way, Sing Along Song 14, The More Than a Man, which is my favorite Stryper song. Absolutely love the song. It really gets to the heart of the message, and honestly leads the way to Jesus, like most of Stryper catalog does. And they added two new songs on the end of the album. 15 is Bleeding from the Inside Out, and 16 is Blackened, which is more of that classic hard rock heavy metal Stryper sound. And in Japan, they had a bonus track together as one. In interviews and on YouTube, I know, to promote this album, as this was the first album Stryper released on the Frontiers music label, which is the label they're still with today, and have been basically turning out albums every other year since then. As I know, when they get back together in 2003, they didn't release a brand new album of original music until 2005 with Reborn, which was originally a Michael Sweet solo record. And in my opinion, you could definitely tell, as that is more of a mainstream hard rock album of the time. And they just basically re-recorded it and tacked on "In God We Trust" at the end, performed it a little bit differently, which is the way they still perform it today when they perform it live. But in my opinion, I prefer the original "In God We Trust." There's something about it, in my opinion, that makes it rock harder. I know in the interview I saw on YouTube, Michael Sweet talks about how big of a blessing it has been that they were still able to make music 30 years later from their debut album, and the fact that it was the original band still there, because I believe Tim Gaines was back for the previous album, which was a cover as album. But I know he, he's kind of been in and out of the band, and he's officially out of the band now. With Perry Richardson is the bass player for Stryper. He's been his bass player for Stryper, I think, since 2017. I think, even though these are re-recorded, and a lot of times when bands go back into the studio to re-record previous material that they have released, I guess it's hit or miss. A lot of times it's not very good. But in my opinion, Stryper absolutely killed it here. I think a lot of honestly, I think a lot of these songs sound just as good, or if not better, than they did on the original recordings. The fact that they've spent all these years playing together, they are tighter as a band. I really just appreciate, I guess, the hard work they do to go into that. And as we go to the next album, number 4, this may be controversial, as I know this is Michael Sweet's, I believe this is his favorite Stryper album, Soldiers Under Command. Here's the vinyl. I got the record here, and this is the white vinyl. I believe Enigma originally just released Soldiers Under Command on white vinyl only, which I did not know until I did some research here on the album. But this was their first full-length record on Enigma, as the Yellow and Black Attack originally was only a 6-song EP. Only includes 6 songs as kind of like an introduction to the band. And then you have Soldiers Under Command as the first full-length outing as a band. Michael Wagner produced that record, and then usually I know, like on the To Hell with the Devil, there is a verse from Revelation on the cover, and on the back cover here, I don't know if you can see or not, but here it says 2 Timothy 2:3 through 4. And that verse says, "In all things that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these things to faithful men who will be able to teach each other also. You, therefore, must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ." And the tracking list here on for Soldiers Under Command title track leads the album off, Makes Me Want to Sing, Together Forever, which is really Stryper's attempt at a really bluesy type song. In my opinion, is great. First Love, which is probably my favorite song off of Soldiers Under Command. I just love that song, especially as I know right before they released this album, they went over to Japan to film live in Japan, and I love that version of the song. Made me fall in love with First Love. It's very, I guess, dark, very haunting, but it's this great in my opinion. Number 5, The Rock That Makes Me Roll. 6, Reach Out. 7, Waiting for a Love That's Real. Together as One. Surrender. Perfect Surrender. Opened Up Into His Majesty. 10, and then which is ends the album. It's the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Most of these songs I know before they went into the studio, they had been playing live for a few years. I know Michael Sweet in an interview I found said basically this album was recorded in a couple weeks, that it only took Robert Sweet a day to track the drums, a day and a night, excuse me. The guitar and bass were tracked in a few days. Since they knew the songs so well, they were able to record the album very quickly, which I'm sure is an awesome feeling to do, especially since I know going to recording studios and stuff can be pretty expensive. Soldiers Under Command is the first ever Christian metal album to go gold, selling in the U.S. That means they sold 500,000 copies of Soldiers Under Command. Then when, as I was talking about with the Live in Japan, that was released a year after Soldiers Under Command was released. I released that on home video. It's great, but also I know on like eBay and stuff like that, you can buy that, but that concert is available on YouTube, so you can just go on there, search it up, and put it on, and you'll have a good time. Also, but most of all, it'll lead you to this, as a lot of Stryper has done for a lot of people. And with Soldiers, it finished that the top chart position it held was number 5 on the Christian album chart. And then as we go to the next one, the next album here, number 3 will be the Yellow and Black Attack, the very first Stryper album here. I actually have 2 copies of these. This is the Circle one, if you can see it here, and I have this one anyway. I have comes with a lyric sheet, picture of the band on the back there. I have the blue copy of the vinyl here, which is pretty cool. As I know, a lot of these Stryper albums, especially these new ones, they press a ton of colored vinyl here recently, which is pretty cool. Usually when I go to pick up the new album, Stryper album, I usually try and get the one I think is the coolest. As I know, let's see, I know with this last album there were several, which was the Christmas album, but which also leads us into talking about this album. This was released in 1984 here. This album was produced by Ron Goody and Stryper. They produced that album. The tracking list goes from loud and clear, as I know a lot of these songs were I'm saying coming some kind of repeating stuff, but from wrong to right, you know what to do. Come on, rock. You Won't Be Lonely Long, Loving You. That was the original 6-song EP that they released. But Enigma, after the success of Soldiers Under Command, re-released this album and made it a full-length album. in 1986. They added My Love Will Always Show, which is in between From Wrong to Right and You Know What to Do. And then also at the end, to close the album, The Reason for the Season, which is a Christmas song celebrating that, letting you know that Jesus is the reason for the Christmas season, that we celebrate his birth, his coming as an infant to earth so he can fulfill his destiny and make a way for us to have a relationship with him and God again, which also kind of goes back to the original first episode of this podcast, as I talked about what Christmas means to me. And then in Japan, I know they tacked on Winter Wonderland, a version of Winter Wonderland, on that vinyl in Japan. I believe I got a tape. I know I do. I believe of The Reason for the Season and Winter Wonderland. I believe they released like a cassette tape of both those songs. Like I know back when I was growing up, I know a lot of gas stations and stuff had like singles, and I know like retail stores probably did too. But I remember getting like I have like a couple cassette singles, this with one song on each side of Brooks and Dunn. I remember getting that stuff at like my local gas station as a kid, which is pretty cool that they were able to release that. But I know those two songs they have recently re-recorded on their Christmas album that closes that album out, which is called The Greatest Gift of All. I know that album is only available physically. I believe it may be on Apple Music. If you have Apple Music, you can check it out and you can buy it on there, I believe. But I know on the other streaming platforms, they release maybe a couple songs off the album. But if you want to listen to the entire album, you have to buy a physical version of that. And I got the snow splattered vinyl version of that. It's in with my records. I didn't bring it here, or I would show you, but I did not. So I do remember Michael Sweet Enigma was just so shocked about them being so forward with their faith, and they didn't even realize that, even though they came to see Stryper live, and I guess they didn't listen to the lyrics at all, I guess, which is crazy. But because of that, Enigma originally only shipped 22,000 copies because they were not sure how the album would sell, especially with it being Christian. And this market, the Christian metal market, was new, and come to find out, they needed to print quite a bit more, as the album sold 150,000 units in the first 3 weeks. They were very young, hungry, and raw. You can tell that. You can hear it in just in every part of the album, in my opinion. I think it's great. From Wrong to Right, it's probably my favorite song on the album. I think that song is just so good and so heavy. But honestly, I think as this is my top 3, I think this whole album's great. But then we go to my top 2 here. This may be controversial to some, but number 2 is this: Stryper Against the Law. I know this album is controversial. There it is. Get it straight on the camera here. I know this was honestly a tumultuous period for the band, and the last of the original 5 Stryper albums to be released, as this album came out in 1990, August 21st, 1990. Produced by Tom Moorman, a very famous, well-known producer. Helped produce Ted Nugent, Motley Crue, Twisted Sister, Poison. If you're a fan of any of that 80s hair metal, I don't think many people own the vinyl version of this, as I believe this was I can't remember where I got this from. I'm trying to see if it says at all what country this came from, but I believe I got this on eBay from a guy in South Korea, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But I believe Against the Law was only pressed and shipped on vinyl internationally. That's the only way you can get that album on vinyl. Is Really, by then the CD and cassette craze had already taken over here in the United States, as albums sales were starting to blow up like crazy. But probably it may have been cheaper to produce CDs and cassettes. But by then, most music labels and everything were starting to move away from vinyl. Although it has made a comeback here in recent years, which is great. But I believe the only Stryper album I own on CD outside of vinyl is the original version of the Stryper acoustic album, which was called Acousticize when they first released it in that CD DVD / Blu-ray combo pack. Then they re-released it and called it To Hell with the Amps, which I do have the blue and white version of the vinyl. I believe that might have been the only colored version of the record. So, but this album, obviously, definitely they completely dropped the black and yellow, went more blue and black stripes. They took 8 months to record this, and I know this is Michael Sweet's least favorite Stryper album just because of everything that was going on and everything they were going through. As he honestly feels like they abandoned their faith, and it feels like more of a Van Halen album than a Stryper album, which I kind of tend to agree with, to be completely honest. As I think, when I really think about it, I think you could split this album. Like, I know there's 11 tracks on the album, but I think like 6 of the songs feel like a different band, and then 5 of them feel like Stryper, in my opinion. But also, this album was also released with a completely different cover. It was like a steel gray background with the Stryper across and Against the Law and a circle around it, and that they released that as a limited edition version of the album. And then there also includes a 14-minute interview of the band, the tracking list. The title track opens the album, Against the Law. Two-Time Woman, Rock the People, Two Bodies, One Mind, One Soul, Not That Kind of Guy, Shining Star, the Earth, Wind, and Fire cover, which includes of American Idol fame Randy Jackson on bass, 7, Ordinary Man, 8, Lady, which, in my opinion, Lady is their best power ballad of probably an entire career. But then you get Caught in the Middle, which is my favorite song on the album. I love that song. That song, in my opinion, is classic Stryper. And then you got 10, All for One, which is probably Michael Sweet's favorite song on the album, as that is the only song they continue to play from this record. Then to close the album, which is Stryper always seems to have a killer song to end other albums. It's Rock the Hell Out of You, which is great. It has a killer scream at the beginning of the album and at the beginning of the song. Great way to end the album on a on a heavy note. I really don't know what else they could have ended it on, to be honest, when you really break it down. But there was 3 videos for the 3 singles of this album, Shining Star, which was the cover, which is the very first single. Most of Stryper's music videos are just them performing the song. Shining Star took a different approach, as more like a music video, like a mini movie, than really anything that they had done at that time. Two-Time Woman and Lady, the last two singles, and also they filmed music videos for both of those, which are basically just performance videos. And Ladies has a lady spliced in to the music video, but which is really different, to be honest. It was, and then once that was released, this album was released. It was by far their worst performing album, and was definitely a big change that no one was expecting at the time. I know for a while, I kind of stayed away from this album, really because of what Michael Sweet said, but I'm glad I gave it a chance, as I do think this music, you can definitely tell that they spent the 8 months to prepare. Usually, you can tell just how comfortable they were with the material anyway, with knowing how to play it and what to play and what fit the song and everything like that. But after this, after Against the Law, they went on to release their very first compilation album, Can't Stop the Rock. But after that, really, Michael Sweet left the band. And I know they tried to continue with, I believe, the lead singer of Bride, and then they tried to continue as a trio with Oz Fox on vocals, but that didn't last very long. And then really officially Stryper disbanded until 2003, when they officially got back together. And but also this Against the Law was the very first Stryper album Tim Gaines played bass on since Soldiers Under Command, because he didn't, I guess for whatever reason, didn't play bass on To Hell with the Devil or on In God We Trust. So, but by those times, for the tour on both of those albums, he was back in the band. And it's just honestly crazy. But then my number one Stryper album of all time, in my opinion, this is my favorite, and I've been my favorite since the first day I heard it, is No More Hell to Pay. Let's see. I guess it's been kind of crazy me tracking down some of these Stryper albums. My wife is sure not too thrilled about it, but thankfully she let me get some of these, as I know some of them are expensive. I got this one from the official Stryper store, which is pretty cool. I know on here, with this and there, and obviously the Stryper album just a black now. But when you put that back in there, here, the Stryper stripes are back here on the album. And the colored version of this vinyl that I have is it's a double EP, by the way. It's blue. Ironically, blue is my wife and our youngest son's favorite color. It is red, but I seem to tend to be collecting more blue stuff here recently. But anyway, No More Hell to Pay was officially released in November 5th, 2013, and is the first was the first Stryper album of original material to be released since 2009. It's Murder by Pride, which after Reborn's modern rock sound, Stryper started to shift more back to what they were known for, especially in the 80s. And honestly, on this album, they got their mojo back, in my opinion. And also, this is the first album of original material to feature Tim Gaines on bass since the previous album, Against the Law. Like all of the Stryper albums now, this was produced by Michael Sweet. Michael Sweet produced Second Coming. I forgot to mention that. But the tracking list for No More Hell to Pay is Revelation, kicks off the album. No title track's the second track of the album, No More Hell to Pay, that has a music video. They are in the Desert. Then 3, Say by Love. I love that song. I guess pun intended or however that works. I don't know, but I love singing along that song. I think it's just great. And then you got 4, which is another cover. Jesus is Just All Right. I know Art Reynolds originally sang a song. Doobie Brothers then covered it. DC Talk covered it as well. But I guess I haven't heard the Doobie Brothers, but I know DC Talk, since this was on the Free at Last album back when Toby Mac was still rapping a bunch, he added verses to that song and made it, I guess honestly they made it their own. But Stryper, in my opinion, they made this song their own too. It's compared to the other ones. I guess DC Talks has some electric guitar on it and some that is in the forefront, but nothing like this one, Stryper. They made it their own, and I think it kicks butt, to be honest. I think it's a great version of the song. It's my favorite version of the song. I think it's just great, to be honest. Then 5, you got the 1, which is usually with Stryper, they tend to, I guess, with order, they open up their albums with 4 heavy, hard rocking songs. Then 5th, they replaced their ballad there, which is the very first ballad of this record. Then you have 6, Legacy, which basically, usually that's about, especially back in the older days when it comes to records, that would be like the last song on the first side. But not this record, as this is a double LP, as they release 3 songs on each side. On each side of the vinyl, and Legacy officially ends the very first vinyl as the last song on side B, and then Marching into Battle opens up the second LP, which honestly great battle cry for Jesus at the end of the age, basically him coming back at the end of the tribulation, and just I guess a battle cry, a great song. And then probably my favorite song on this album, Te Amo. I think that song is great. I've loved it ever since I first heard it. For whatever reason, I'm not 100% sure, but that musical bug bit me with this song. Has a great solo. Lyrics are great. Michael sings his butt off on all these albums. Then you got number 9, Sticks and Stones. 10, Water into Wine. 11, Sympathy. 12, another great album closer, Renewed. Absolutely love singing that song too. Then in Japan, they did release a bonus track on this album, and it was the orchestral version of First Love. I've actually never heard that version. I'll have to go look it up after this podcast. In my opinion, as I said before, a return to form. Michael said in interviews leading up to this record, he wanted to try and write songs in the vein, heavier songs in the vein of like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and Van Halen, as I know those bands, especially Judas Priest and Van Halen, were huge influences on the band. This No More Hell to Pay, like most of these recent Stryper albums, the highest chart position was number 2 on the Christian album charts, number 3 on the top hard rock charts for the mainstream music. And besides vinyl, they released a CD, DVD combo pack with a 1-minute documentary on the making of the album. I know that documentary used to be on YouTube, but I was unable to find it. And also, for the 2 music videos that they've recorded for this album, No More Hell to Pay, the title track, and Sympathy, which Sympathy I think is just recorded in the studio that they record in, that Michael Sweet owns. Those 2 music videos are on that DVD as well. But anyway, then that concludes my top 5 Stryper albums. I would love to hear what your top five Stryper albums are, or top 3, or whatever your favorite Stryper album is. Let me hear it. I'd love to hear what yours is. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine. You think my list sucks, you can tell me that too. I don't care. But anyway, as we come to a close here, I want to thank you, the audience, once again, for listening to this podcast here, The Lack of Interesting Conversation. I try to bring something interesting to the table every week. I hope you found this conversation interesting anyway. If you did, please like us, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on the podcasting platform that you prefer to listen to podcasts on, as I know some of them do release notifications on when we go live with the podcast, like I know Amazon Music does. And on YouTube, just hit that notification bell to let it, so you can know exactly when this video goes live, this podcast goes live. So just remember, Jesus does love you. He went to the cross for you, and that the blood that he shed on the cross is able to wipe away your sins. No matter what your past may be, is not too big for the blood. And anyway, well, we'll see you and talk to you next time on the Lack of Interesting Conversation podcast.